and celebrate. We're going to go to Matthew 8, 5, and 6. And then I'm just going to call out the scriptures and we'll go to them. Let's read together. When Jesus had entered Capernaum, a centurion came to him asking for help. Lord, he said, my servant lies at home, paralyzed, suffering terribly. Matthew 8, 14 and 15. When Jesus came into Peter's house, he saw Peter's mother-in-law lying in bed with a fever. He touched her hand, and the fever left her. She got up and began to wait on him. Mark 5, 1 and 2. They went across the lake to the region of the Gerasenes. When Jesus got out of the boat, a man with an impure spirit came from the tombs to meet him. Mark chapter 7, verse 24 and 25. Jesus left that place and went to the vicinity of Tyre. He entered a house and did not want anyone to know it. Yet he could not keep his presence secret. In fact, as soon as she heard about him, a woman whose little daughter was possessed by an impure spirit came and fell at his feet. Luke 14, 1 and 2. One Sabbath, when Jesus went to eat in the house of a prominent Pharisee, he was being carefully watched. There in front of him was a man suffering from abnormal swelling of his body. Luke 19, 1 and 3. Jesus entered Jericho and was passing through. A man there by the name of Zacchaeus. He was a chief tax collector and was wealthy. He wanted to see who Jesus was, but because he was short, he could not see over the crowd. John 11, 1. Now a man named Lazarus was sick. He was from Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. In John 19, 17 through 18. Carrying his own cross, he went out to the place of the skull, which in Aramaic is called Golgotha. There they crucified him, and with him 2 others, one on each side, and Jesus in the middle. Now, I took 2 scriptures out of Matthew, 2 out of Mark, 2 out of Luke, 2 out of John. Mm-hmm. What do they have in common? We got Capernaum, mm-hmm. Peter's house, mm-hmm. the Gerasenes, yep. Tyre, mm-hmm. the Pharisees' house, mm-hmm. Jericho, mm-hmm. Bethany, mm-hmm. Golgotha. Mm-hmm. Our topic tonight is mark the place where he worked it out. Come on, yeah. Come on, Father. Mark the place where he worked it out. So welcome to my 65th birthday weekend celebration. So tonight I'm going to invite you into my 65-year-old journey. Thank you. I got some, they're not quite as old as me, but I got some girls here tonight. I got some seasoned people here with me tonight, so I'm glad to see them. Because I was young and now I'm old. But I have never seen the righteous forsaken, nor his seed begging bread. So we're starting a new series today. And just like last month, we want you all to leave this month with some faith. Mm-hmm. Last month, we talked about Jesus' will. We wanted y'all to leave with some faith. I want y'all to leave this month with some excitement, some expectation, some assurance. Last month, we told you Jesus will. This month is Jesus works. Yes. So I said Jesus works. So what do you know about Jesus? Jesus. Thank you. What do you know about Jesus? Jesus saves. Jesus loves. Jesus lives. Jesus gives. Jesus cares. Jesus frees. Jesus helps. Jesus will. Jesus works. In John chapter 5, verse 17 says, Jesus says, my Father is always at work, at his work. To this very day that Jesus says that I too am working. Romans 8:28 says God is always working things together for our good. You had a good working scripture for your affirmation. Y'all, Jesus works. And I mean that 2 ways. Jesus works. He is always on his grind for us. He's always making a way. He's always on his job. He's always moving in the midst of us through the Holy Spirit. He does not sleep and he does not slumber. Jesus works. And Jesus works. You know, like that'll work. Or it's like, it works for me. Or that product works. It does what it says it will do. If you apply it, it works. It works when you apply it. If you've been trying things out in that world out there and they are not working out for you, let me give my commercial for a life lived in the goodness of God. I have lived my life in the goodness of God. Here's my commercial. Jesus works.
Yes.
Somebody say that'll work.
That'll work.
Matter of fact, he'll work.
He'll work.
Jesus works. So starting out this month, we had revival for our leaders last month. And starting out this month, Keith, I'm thinking maybe you don't need a revival. Maybe you don't need a fresh word. Maybe you don't need an encounter with God. Maybe you just need to remember.
Yes.
Now, for some of you young folk that don't have that far back to remember, some of y'all been through some stuff. Some of you all have been through more in your young life than I have been in my old life. I know some of your stories, but this might be something I want you to hold on to as you live this life. The others of us that have lived a little past 35, maybe you just need to remember to get back on top of your faith, to be encouraged and to be excited, to feel like running through troops and leaping over walls. Maybe you just need to remember. Maybe you don't need another prophet to give you a confirmation. Maybe you don't need another song to lift your spirit. Maybe you don't need a 3-day fast or all night shut in. Maybe you just need to remember. Lord, you worked it out before. You brought me out before. You've been better to me than I've been to myself. When I was stressed and I was anxious before, you worked it out. Maybe I just need to remember. And a good way to do that is to mark the place where he worked it out. Let me show you something. Back in Joshua 4, around verse 4 through 7, it says this. It says, so Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. That was the river. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the Israelites, to serve as a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask, what do these stones mean? That sounds good right there. Tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be a memorial to the people of Israel forever. So there's a biblical tradition to set up memorials and altars in places where they had encounters with God. So this is when the children of Israel finally went into the promised land, and they wanted to see if the same God that was with Moses, was he with Joshua? Was this God still with us? So this time, when Moses wasn't there to do the staff, what they did is they took the Ark of the Covenant, which was a symbol of the presence of God. And as soon as the priest stepped foot in the Jordan River parted for them, and the waters were held up, and they went over on dry land to the other side. And when they got to the other side, he said, go get them 12 big old stones, and I want y'all to put them right here at this spot. So anytime your children come back around this spot, they say, what do these stones mean? And then you say, first give an honor to God. Joshua the priest, to the Levites. Let me tell you what these stones mean. We were coming out of the wilderness into the promised land, and the Lord opened up the Jordan River. They were to keep telling their children what the stones meant. In other words, they marked the place where he worked it out. And so in places where God worked something out, they would always mark the place. Abraham did it at the place where he found the ram in the bush. This place now they gonna call it Jehovah Jireh.
Yes.
The Lord provided. Jacob did it. He called one of the place Bethel, where he saw the angels coming up and down right. Jacob's ladder. He called that place Bethel, house of God. And then when he wrestled with the angel, he called that place Peniel. Hagar did it at the well. She named that well Bir Lahai Roi, because it means well of the living one who sees me. And so they marked the places by either building altars or by giving it a name or by putting up stones. That way the testimonies of the ones who God worked it out for would live on beyond them. That's what we read, and we're just reading about the places that they marked where God worked it out. So for generations, kids would ask, what do these stones mean? Mama, what did that picture mean? Daddy, what did that picture of that car mean? Why you got that up on the wall? Because I'm marking the place where he worked it out. So we find in the New Testament that the writers did the same thing. They didn't just tell us what Jesus did. They told us where he did it.
Yeah. That's good.
They constantly marked the place where he worked it out, because sometimes to have faith, sometimes to be encouraged, sometimes to get the strength to fight or the strength to wait or the strength to pray or the strength to hold on, you just need to remember.
Yes.
So in Matthew 8, there was a centurion that was asking for help. He said, Lord, my servant's at home and he's paralyzed and he's suffering. He said, you don't even have to come to my house. All you got to do is speak the word. And Jesus just spoke the word. And that servant was healed right then and there. Well, while we just mark that place, where did that happen? That was Capernaum.
Yeah.
You know, one time Jesus just spoke a word and he lifted, and this guy got healed without Jesus even come to the house. It was over there in Capernaum. So now every time you walk through Capernaum, you remember that a healing power, thank you, help me preach. You remember the healing power of God. He didn't even have to be there. And then in Matthew 8, Peter's mother-in-law was lying in bed, had a fever. Nothing could help her. I like how they do it in the shows. They make it sound like she had COVID in the and he just touched her, and the fever left her, and she got up immediately. Where did that happen? That was over at Peter's house. Marked the place where, and then they went across the lake. And they got out the boat, and this man had a legion of demons in him, and he fell at Jesus' feet, and Jesus called out those demons. And the next time you saw that man, he was clothed and in his right mind. Where was that? They marked that place. That was over at the Gerasene.
That's right. That's right.
In Mark 7, he left that place and he entered in somebody's house. He tried to keep it a secret, but this Gentile woman that she wasn't even waiting for the Messiah, but she had heard about Jesus, and she had a child at home, and she said, no longer am I going to live with the devil. Anybody tired of living with the devil? Anybody want to come to Jesus and say, I'm not living another day with this devil in my house? And he spoke the word, and the demon left her daughter at home. Where did that happen? That was over in Tyre. They marked the place where Jesus worked it out. And then there was this one Sabbath that everybody was trying to watch Jesus, see what he was going to do. And there was a man that had unusual swelling in his body. The King James called it dropsy. We might call it elephantitis. But he had this swelling in his body, and they wanted to see if he was going to do it on the Sabbath. Jesus didn't care nothing about them. He cared something about that man. And he worked that thing out from there. Well, where was that? Where was that? That was over at that Pharisee's house. They marked the place where Jesus worked it out. Then there was this dude named Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus needed a change in his life, but he couldn't see who Jesus was. Sometimes you just can't see who Jesus is, but you need him. You need that change. And so Jesus, he couldn't see Jesus, but Jesus saw him. Come on out of that tree, Zacchaeus, and he changed that man's life overnight. Well, where was that? Where is it with God when Jesus turned around an evil tax collector and he started giving people money back? Y'all hear that story about the tax collector that started giving people their money back? Where was that? That was over at Jericho. Marked the place where he worked it out. And then that friend Lazarus was sick. Matter of fact, he died. He was dead 4 days. Jesus raises him from the dead, called him right out the grave, Most of us would have been freaking out and running. I would have been the first one to be like, well, where was that? Where was that he raised the dead after 4 days? The man was stinking. That was at that marketplace. What was that? Where was that? That was over at Bethany. That was over at Bethany. And the ultimate place that God worked it out. The ultimate place Jesus worked it out was a place called Golgotha.
Yes.
They marked the place. They didn't say they just crucified Jesus out there somewhere. He said, we got to mark the place where this happened. Mark the place where he forgave my sins, where he set me free, where he gave me new life, where he paid my penalty, where he took my place, where they hung him high and they stretched him wide. They put nails in his hands and feet. They pierced him in the side. They mocked him. They humiliated him. He was still saving folk even while he was on the cross. But the main thing is he saved me. He decided to die. They could have took him. He could have come down for that cross. He could have called 10,000 legions of angels to take him off the cross. But he did it for me. Love kept him on the cross. It wasn't the nails that kept it on the cross. It was love that kept it on the cross. We got to mark the place where it happened. That was over at Golgotha. Golgotha in the Aramaic. The place of the skull in English, Calvary in Latin. He marked a place. Oh, and didn't he work it out?
Yes.
Didn't he work it out? And so I got some places I want to mark to celebrate 65 years. Let's see. Valley High School, 1976. The Eastern. He knows that. Once a bike, always a bike. The Eastern entrance on the grass hill. I was so deep in depression at 17 years old that I felt my mind leaving me. I sat on that hill and I was supposed to take the city bus home. And back then, real parents didn't let you just roll up whenever you wanted to. I was supposed to be on that bus and be home on time. But I was so out of it. I was so deep in depression. I just didn't care anymore. I sat on that grassy hill and I watched my bus pass by. I didn't know what I was going to do, how I was going to get home. I didn't care. And a friend of mine walked up to me. It was after basketball practice. She was the basketball manager. And for some reason, she just walked up to me on that grassy hill. She reached out her hand and said, come on, I'll take you home. When I grabbed her hand, I felt my mind snap back.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
I marked the place where he worked it out. 1982, the corner store in Venice, LA County, where I was going to UCLA. I was so hungry. I didn't want to call home. I was trying to be grown. And I knew it was Friday, and I knew if I could make it to Sunday that the preacher at the church where I was directing the choir, he fed everybody after church on Sunday. But it was Friday, and I don't think I had eaten since Wednesday. And I had to try to make it to Sunday, and I was so hungry. I went digging in every place I could, and I found 42 cents. I went down to the corner store and said, God, if I could just get a can of soup. I don't know if I have enough with my 42 cents. I walked in that store in hope. I don't even know if I had faith, but I had hope. I walked in that store, picked up a can of soup. That can of soup was 39 cents. Did he work it out? So y'all ain't never been that hungry. Anybody been hungry enough to thank God for 39 cents? Hey, he worked it out. In the parking lot at UNR. The year was 1989. The parking lot by the psych building. I had just walked away from getting ready to defend my district, and my professor told me we can't get everybody together until after graduation. My family was coming up there. It had once before that I had marched and then didn't finish that summer. Do that. They don't let you do that no more. But I didn't want my family to come up here and I wasn't finished. Yeah. It might not have been nothing to anybody else, but I was in my 6th year of a 4-year program. Yeah. It was time to go home. Called me back and he said, we can do your defense the Wednesday before graduation. I marked that place where he worked it out. Yeah. So even though my name didn't make the program, when they called me Dr. Parson, when my family came up there and they put that hood on me, I was Dr. Parson. Yeah. He worked it out. Marked a place where he worked it out. Civic Center in Cheyenne. Come on. 1990s. Okay. The night before, I was looking at the news and found out, actually somebody called me and watched the news and I found out that I lost my job. The state was supposed to give everybody a raise. They didn't, and the union didn't believe that they couldn't do it. So they took them to the court. And the court said the state had to give them their raise. Well, the state said the only way we can do it is we have to lay off. We have to close all the mental health facilities. They closed all the mental health facilities. I'm sitting up there looking at the news and say, I just lost my job. Wow. Got up, went to work the next day because it'll take a minute to fire everybody. I don't know why I was at peace. Because I had bought a house. I don't know who was going to pay that mortgage. And I just lost my job. Everybody at the job, people was freaking out. Everybody that worked for the state mental health was freaking out at the time. When I walked in my job, they said, every mental health facility is now closed except yours. It just so happened that all of them were on the adult budget. I marked a place. If I drive down Civic Center in Cheyenne, I marked a place where he worked it out. Yes. Interstate 15, Spring Mountain exit, 1992. That depression had grabbed me again, grabbed me several times in my life. That depression grabbed me again. And this time, it didn't look like he was going to work it out. He wasn't talking to me and I wasn't talking to him. Matter of fact, I wasn't sure that Jesus even existed. I was filled with doubt and I was in the depths of depression. And I'm driving to my therapist, getting ready to get off on Spring Mountain where my therapist was, because I need some therapy because Jesus ain't gonna help me, so I'm gonna go find me some help somewhere else. And on the way there, Jesus said to me, he decided to speak. After a year and a half, he decided to speak. And he said to me, you asked me to make some permanent changes in your life. And that's all I'm doing. He was getting me to go to therapy because I wouldn't go. I needed permanent changes. I needed to go to therapy to do that. And once he spoke to me, once he had me in the position that he wanted me in, he spoke to me and instantaneously lifted that depression. Wow. And then I finished the mental work that I needed to do. Interstate 50 in Spring Mountain, I marked the place where he worked it out. 2002, 3950 Las Vegas Boulevard, also known as New Antioch Christian Fellowship, main campus. They told us there was no place. People didn't want church. Back then, they still don't want churches in their places. When they allow churches to come into their places, they say that's a sign to everybody that the building is going down and they can't get other businesses in there, because that shows people that you've given up once you let a church in. That's what they told us. But the man called back and said, it was something in him. He was Jewish. He said, there's something in me that can't say no to a church. And we was in that church for the next 10, 15 years. Next 10 years, we were in that church. It's the 3950. He worked a whole lot of stuff out. Yes, he did. At 3950, marked the place. When I drive down Las Vegas Boulevard, I have to look over at the place where he worked it out. 2010, did it again at the corner of Nature Park and Aliante. They told us no. We got some prayer warriors, and we walked around that building on the corner. They had to call us back and give it to us. I marked a place where he worked it out. But let me jump forward. UMC, University Medical Center, October 22nd, 2022. Little boy was born by the name of Aiden. They give the mother 3 days to change to sign the papers in case they change their mind. On the third day, we went up the first day, named him, changed his first diaper, fed him his first bottle. That was our baby. Second day, spent the day with him. That was our baby. Third day, they say y'all can't see him. The mother won't let you see him. She changed her mind. And y'all can't have the baby. But 9 days later. Now, this is an adoption agency. Erica gave a little bit of testimony last week. It's an adoption agency. Adoption agencies cost money to. We had spent about $100,000 in IVF treatments over 5 years, and she miscarried all the children that she got through IVF. She couldn't hold them, so that's $100,000, and then so now it's going to cost us $10,000 to get this baby out this adoption agency. CBS took the baby. He never left the hospital. 9 days later, they called us and told us, can we come get it? Not only did it not cost us $10,000 to adopt him, but they pay us every month to keep a baby that belongs to us. And by the time he's 18, not only will God have paid us back the $100,000 from IVF, but almost another $80,000 just on the side, just because he can. Just because he can. UMC, I marked a place where he worked it out. There's something called PTSD. PTSD stands for post-traumatic stress disorder. It happens when you or your body remembers trauma. And that trauma gets connected to places. Trauma marks the place too. So sometimes when people go by those places, they re-experience the trauma. Both my daughter and my husband have those have trauma reactions. I won't say my daughter has PTSD. My husband absolutely has it. And I go around town with Erica, and Erica say, that's where we didn't have any water. And she said, you know, that's where we had to borrow power from the folk next door so we could iron our clothes all up. That's the place where we had to make sure we were finished with everything because the sun came, because once the sun went down, it would be dark in the house. Every place she goes, she remembers trauma. That's the place where where it happened. My husband said, where I went down south. He said, that's the place where my mom stabbed my dad. And that's the place where I talked to my brother, for he was in the top from the jail cell. That's the place that my brother, every place was reminded him of a trauma. They were marked. When you got PTSD, it's marked by where it's happened. And sometimes those places will trigger you. And so I decided we need to act like we got post-triumph disorder.
I love it.
Where after the triumph, we break out into praise. Whenever we remember not our trauma, but our triumph. Every time we go by a place where he worked it out. And the Bible says, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. So post-traumatic stress, PTSD, let the redeemed of the Lord say so. I call it post-triumph speaking disorder. This is real corny, but it's good to me. The Bible says, sing unto the Lord a new song, for he has done marvelous things. That's post-triumph singing disorder. And the Bible says, shout unto God with the voice of triumph. That's post-triumph shouting disorder. I got post-triumph singing, shouting, and speaking disorder. It gives me hope. It gives me faith. It gives me expectation. And then I start thinking, even if this is kind of corny, but I start thinking that there's something we call complex PTSD. Complex PTSD that's when the trauma goes on for years. That it wasn't just an event that happened, but a series of events that keep happening. And I say, you know what? I got that too. Because it's not just one triumph, but in 65 years that I've been living, I've had a series of triumphs. I got complicated PTSD. I got complicated post-triumph singing, shouting, speaking disorder. Because it keeps on doing great things for me. He keeps on working it out. I mark the place. I just need to remember sometime and mark the place where he worked it out. So I declare to you today, as we enter this month of Jesus Works, and as I celebrate 65 years of watching him work it out, won't y'all testify with me?
Yes.
Where's the place that he worked it out? Come on, talk to me. Well, where's the place that he worked it out?
I-15.
I-15. I-15 on Sahara exit. Where'd he work it out?
71st and Everhart.
Say, hey, 71st and Everhart. Where'd he work it out?
48.
4344 West Side. Where'd he work it out? Come on, y'all. Mark the place where he worked it out.
4843 St. Lawrence.
Say what?
4843
St. Lawrence.
Las Vegas Boulevard, that's here.
Las Vegas Boulevard, that's Sahara.
Bedroom.
Hey, your bed, Mark's bedroom. He worked it out in Mark's bedroom. Mark the place where he worked it out. Those of you that say, I can't think of nothing yet, you will. And if you really think about it, you've already had some experiences where God worked it out. So watch God work it out. Watch God work it out. Whatever you're going through right now, watch God work it out. If he did it before, he can do it again. Watch God work it out. Matter of fact, if you could play that song again, if you can. If not, watch God work it out. I want you to mark the place where he worked it out. Put it in your journals. Put it in places that you can go back and say, this is where he worked it out. I got post-triumph singing disorder right now. Somebody got post-triumph singing disorder with me by right now? Kick that up real loud. Will y'all party with me for a minute?